Welcome everybody to Math Academy Rewind. Today we're going to look at equations from word problems. There are three different types of word problems we're going to look at. We're going to start off with just one problem situations, your basic word problem. Then we're going to go into word phrases where you have to write the equation and solve it. Then finally we're going to talk about systems of equations, word problems. So let's get started with just basic situations. So over here to the right we have this situation that says Paul opens a savings account with $350. He saves $150 per month. They want us to write an equation and know how much money would be in the account after 8 months. So the first thing we're going to do is pick out the important information. So we know in this problem the important information is this $350 and this $150 per month. Since 350 is his starting point, that helps us know that this is going to represent our y-intercept in our equation. Since he saves 150 per month, per helps us know that that's going to be the slope because it's every month. Shows us that it's multiplying something times x. So we're going to go now to our second step, which is to set up our equation. When we set up our equation, we're looking for it to be slope-intercept form. We've already pointed out that the starting point would be our y-intercept, so it's in red to show that correlation. We already know that 150 per month is going to represent our slope, so that's in blue. Then we just plug in our information. So again, 150 per month was our slope, so that went where m was. 350 was our starting amount, so that goes at the end. So we've successfully set up our equation. And then the next step is to solve for what the question is asking. So the question is asking how much money would be in our account after 8 months. So let's think about this. All we're really doing is taking this 8 months and we're going to sub it into our equation. We know that he gets 150 saved per month. That x over here represents per month. So x for months is where our 8 would go. So we're taking our 8 months, substituting it in, and then we're just working this out. So if we work this out, we end up with y, which is how much money he's going to have, is $1,550 in their account. Remember, don't forget your labels, guys. Okay, now let's go on to word phrases. Let's look at what we have over to the right. We have a phrase that says 2 times the quantity of 2 less than x tripled is equal to 16 more than x. So kind of confusing word phrase over here. The first thing we're looking for is any key words. So let's go through that. So there's a couple key words that I picked out. I picked out times the quantity. That's going to represent something. I picked out less than, x tripled, and more than. So these are things that are going to help us as we come over here and translate the sentence into the equation before we solve it. So if we look, the first thing again it told us is times the quantity. We know that 2 times the quantity is like the distributive property. Remember that, guys. If it says times the quantity, distributive property. So we're going to set up our parentheses. If we kept reading, it says 2 less than x tripled. So we can represent that as 3x for x tripled. Remember, less than is subtraction, and we want 2 less than that x tripled, so we subtracted 2. Again, all this is going in our parentheses because of our times the quantity. If we keep moving, we have is equal to. Equal to represents our equal sign. 16 more than gives us our plus sign, x. So we want 16 more than x, so we're going to add 16 to x. Now we've set up our equation. All it is time to solve. So let's go through this again. Our first step is distributing. 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. And we still have x plus 16 on our right side. We're then going to combine our variables. So we have x on our right side, which is smaller than 6x, so I subtracted x over here, which gave me 5x. Since my coefficients move to the left, I'm going to move my constant of negative 4 to the right. If it's negative 4, my inverse tells me to add 4, so I end up with 5x equals 20. After I divide, I end up with x equals 4. All right, finally, let's look at systems. Again, like before, we're looking for any keywords to start out. So we get this problem over here that says a used bookstore also started selling used CDs and DVDs. In the first week, the store sold a combination of 40 CDs and DVDs. They charged $4 per CD and $6 per DVD. The total sales were $180. So here's our actual question. Determine the total number of CDs and DVDs sold. So again, first step is to pick out things that are important. So let's look at what we've highlighted here. We know that in the first week that they sold 40 CDs and DVDs, and that's a combination. So combined, they sold 40 CDs and DVDs. We also know that they charged, and this is again boxed because it's important, $4 per CD and $6 per DVD, and the total sales were $180. So when you're working on yours, I want to see you picking out the important things, those keywords. So let's go to the next part. It says write two equations. Remember, systems of equations always have two. So we're going to have one equation for my red box and one for my green box. So we know for my red information that something plus something is supposed to equal 40, because some amount of CDs and some amount of DVDs are supposed to give us 40. Now let's think, if we don't know what something is, we can put variables in their place. So we can change this from something plus something to saying x plus y, and that's going to equal 40. So we've successfully set up our first equation. Let's go to our second equation. Again, we knew that $4 per CD and $6 per DVD were going to give us this total of 180. So that left us with 4x, because it's 4 per CD, plus 6y for the DVDs, and the total that it's going to cost is $180. Okay? Now I started to use the method of elimination, because if you look over here it says solve using whichever method. I started using elimination to solve this. So I was going to multiply the whole top equation times 4 to make this x4 so I could cancel these out. Okay, so when I do that, here's what I end up with. 4 times x gives me 4x, 4 times y is 4y, and 4 times 40 is 160. So now I'm here. Okay, so my job is to decide if this is going to be one big subtraction or one big addition. If I look at my 4x's, they have the same signs. We know same signs mean to subtract. So this became one big subtraction problem. As I go through this, I see that 4x and 4x eliminate each other. 4y minus 6y gives me negative 2y. 160 minus 180 gives me negative 20. And now I'm just ready to divide and solve this. So I divide both sides by negative 2, and I end up with 10 DVDs. Now remember, you have to have a total. Since we said y in our first problem represented DVDs, x was the CDs. Since this is y, we know our label should be 10 DVDs. Now let's think about this. We want to take this information, substitute it back into an equation for y to get what x is. So I took it and I put it where y was in our first equation, so I just rewrote it over to the side. X plus 10, again we get that from right here, is 10 DVDs, equals 40, and then when I solve this, I find out that x was 30 CDs. Okay? There we go with systems of equations.